I have turned 83, and it's kind of a surprise because none of my family ever lived that long. I was born in good old Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, and my dad was in the Army at the time being, so when I was fairly young, he was stationed in California somewhere, so when I was just a baby. I do vaguely remember riding on a train when I was under a year old, and maybe I don't remember. Maybe my mother just told me this story enough that I remember it. But somebody asked her if I couldn't be the subject of a commercial for shampoo because I had all these baby curls, and and they wanted to do. But I don't know if that was really true or not. But it never happened. I mean, nobody ever went any further with the thing. So I don't remember a whole lot about being a very young child. But we moved back to Pauls Valley after Daddy was out of the Army. He was always working. He worked, and I don't really know. He worked on a farm when we lived in the country, because I can remember going to town on Saturdays and selling milk and eggs from the farm. But then he went to work in the oil field, and we sure never saw him much then, so yeah. But he was a good man. He never drank or was ugly or anything, so he was okay. And I don't know about Mama. Mama was a quiet soul. She didn't do much. She never worked until my sister and I were quite grown. Our fun thing to do, my sister and we had a friend that lived in an apartment next to us out at Bond the Florist. There was a little, the florist owned several apartments where families lived. And I think all of them had kids that were about mine and Sue's ages. Anyway, there was the one, her name was Paula, a chubby little girl that lived there with us. And they had a big stand of evergreen trees, which they had cleared out the inside and made it smooth, like it looked like a house in there. You could play like this is one room and this is one room. And we had lots of adventures in there until the time when we found the carton of cigarettes in there, and we thought we'd be so grown up as to smoke these cigarettes, but it had rained on them. They were wet cigarettes to begin with. So we had laid them all out and let them dry. Then we had sneaked matches from the house. And the three of us sat up on the levee that was behind the trees and smoked our cigarettes. And at that time they had a Coke machine, which we could get a Coke for a nickel out of the machine. We smoked our cigarettes, drank our Cokes, and said all the cuss words we could think of. Because we thought we were so grown up and whatever. And then it's so funny. The worst word we could think of was calling somebody a sucker, which is so funny. I don't even know where we even got that, and I don't know why I remember that, but yeah. We didn't know what that was, but somebody said, don't ever call anybody that. So we just said it over and over because we thought it was ugly. When I was in the 6th grade, I got sick. We moved to California during that time, and they thought I had rheumatic fever, and then they put me in the hospital in California, and I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and they decided I had rheumatoid arthritis. So I was treated for that, and I was, like I said, in the 6th grade. Then we moved back to Oklahoma when I got better and recovered from the arthritis. I never had it again until I got grown, and then it came back to fight me again. But anyway, Believe it or not, I was a very shy child. I would have liked to have been in the chorus, but I was too shy. I didn't want to sing out in front of people, so that's one I'm really sorry, because I wish I had learned how to sing. But anyway, no, I never did any kind of sports. Then in about the 8th grade, I think, is when I discovered Don Cruel. And my friend Ruby, he went to their church sometimes. There's a reason she knew him. And we would follow him out of math class down the hall because he was dating another girl. And I would just follow him around for that whole year. My friend Ruby went to the holiness church of some sort, Pentecostal, I believe. And Don played guitar there sometimes. That's where his mother went to church, usually. And that's where she knew him from. So we went to a church outing once. That's where I first really got to know him. And he tried to kiss me, and I wouldn't let him kiss me. So and then I was mad at myself afterwards because I didn't. Anyway, yeah. Then that was just gossipy. Everybody was gossiping because he had a girlfriend already. But anyway, it was a while before I ever saw him again. Used to, back in the olden days, we liked to go to town on Saturday, and you just got a parking place downtown, and you just sat there and you just visited, because people you didn't see any other time would come to town, and you just visit people while you sat on the sidewalk. And we would always, Mama would park the car so I could watch him from across the street. So he would come out and he'd maybe push the bicycles out on the sidewalk or something, and yeah. Crazy. I swear the very first time I ever saw him, that was just it. So I never had any other kind of boyfriend, so he was the only one I ever had. But I think that was because I just wasn't old enough to have gotten around to having any more. So I think the first date we had was a real date, was to the drive-in movie, and I think I've still got the ticket for that somewhere. We dated a couple of years. Then he graduated from junior college and got a job at Oklahoma City. So that's when we decided to get married. Because he was moving away, all the way to Oklahoma City. We'll never see him again. I have decided since then, it wasn't fair to anybody to get married that young, because you're not old enough to know what you're getting into, and it's not fair to your kids either, that you don't know what to do with them at that age. We didn't have that much in common, because to him, his music was everything. He loved his music. So he had his music, and I had my friends, and we went to concerts and stuff, but he was in a band from the time he was in high school. Some band or another, he was in a country band all his life practically. Taught himself to play all the instruments. He never took any lessons from anybody. He wasn't in the band at school or anything. Well, when he was learning to play the violin or the fiddle, it was horrible. It was the worst time of my life. He was determined to learn how to do it, and he did, but boy, it about drove me crazy. I'm not real fond of fiddles to this day. Of course, his favorite thing was when he made the recordings with his daughters, because the girls all could sing, so they all did really good. That was a great thing to do. Ginger was born in Pauls Valley when I was, well, let's see, she was born in March and I was 17 in June. And we lived in a little apartment behind Mom and Daddy where they lived, and at the next door neighbors. Next door neighbors had a little apartment, and that's where Dawn and I lived with Ginger. We had a rat in our apartment that would show itself every once in a while. Well, one day I was home by myself and I was about 9.5 months pregnant and the rat showed up while I was in the bathroom. I got up on the toilet stool and the rat would jump up at me on the toilet stool. And I'm big and pregnant at that time. And I am screaming for help from anybody. And my darling sister Sue and her 2 little friends were at Mama's house by themselves. They heard me screaming. They were afraid probably I was having a baby and they didn't want anything to do with it. So nobody came and helped me. And finally the stupid rat, it came in from a hole underneath the sink in the bathroom. Finally it went back out that hole. And I ran outside. And then when everybody came home that night, well, Don was determined he was going to catch that rat. So, sure enough, we just went to bed and we heard it in the bathroom. So he got up in the middle of the night, shut himself up in the bathroom with a broom, and he fought that rat until he killed it. And I could hear him in there. I could just see that rat just tearing him up, chewing him up, whatever. It was the scariest thing ever. And then when Ginger was born, she had this little birthmark on her forehead, and my father-in-law swore it looked just like a rat. That they just claimed that that rat had marked her by that, that sign on her forehead. Jana, about 2 years later, and then about 2 more years later, there was Jaylyn. And then there was dear Dawn Janae. She didn't come along for about 5 more years after that. She was kind of the tail end. She was supposed to have been the boy because all my symptoms were different. So that was the time you didn't know what you were having. You just took potluck babies, whatever you got. Jana got a really bad spanking one time for trampling down the neighbor's garden. We lived next door to these people who had 7 or 8 kids, and they raised this big old garden. And Jana got out there, and I can't remember exactly whether she was by herself in that endeavor or not, but she got a good spanking for that. Then they played chase around the house one time, and Ginger ran through the front storm door, cut a gash in her shoulder that had to be sewed up. Janae locked the door, so when Ginger made the second round through, the door was locked instead of, she was used to pushing through, and she pushed through the glass, cut herself up. Well, I know one time Jay disappeared. She was about 4 or 5 years old, and she disappeared one day. We didn't know what happened to her. We had the neighborhood looking for her, and we found her later, like hours later. She was wedged in between the bed and the dresser in a little space like so, and she had fallen asleep there. Well, she had hit herself because she had scratched her name in the wall. The girls had some experiences, but nothing really, really bad. I have some little notebooks that I keep. Some of our most exciting trips were our trips that we made to Florida with 2 little children in tow. And I was just reading the other day in my notebooks. The time it was about, I guess it was maybe the last trip we did when we had the blowout in the van. and what everybody was, that trip started out as a problem, so I don't know how we ever made it there. But I could just hear Jana praying the whole time before we got stopped and the tire blew out. Jana was praying to God that we was going to make it out of that alive. And then we got out and she had to have a rock from that particular place. Yeah. Oh, that was exciting. Of course, then then everybody had to go to the bathroom, of course, too. Jana especially had to pee really, really bad. She got us to hold up a towel or something, and she peed in a cup in the van. So I used to keep a diary for every trip that we went on because you can't remember everything. And Don had especially a craving for KFC at that time in his life, and he would hardly stop to eat anywhere else except KFC. So I have a whole page full of places that were legal for him to stop to eat. Exit numbers and everything. And then I have some little jewels of things Jaden has said. Well, first of all, we hadn't even left, and she said, I think I'm a little hungry. And then she said, turn off the air because it's blowing my eyelashes. Then there's the fly. Hey, fly, I'm going to kick your ass. There was a fly in the van that was just aggravating us all to death. Well, that was when we went to Frisco, and this was Faith's little saying. Faith was about the same age, I think, at that time. And she said, dead bird germs are a pain in the ass. That's because she had found a dead bird in the alley, and she was poking around with it with a stick, and the neighbor told her to get it out of there. It had germs all over it. She said, germs are a pain in the ass. After the kids all grow up and everything, well, you realize, there's lots of stuff you could have done, or you could still do. So you just have to make room in there somewhere and finagle your money situation so you have enough money to do what you might like to do. And it's just, it's a lot of fun to grow older. Like I said, I don't mind being old. I just don't like to be sick. I just don't like to be in pain with something. So, but there's a lot of people have it a lot worse than me, so I can't complain. I don't think when you're young, you don't think that much about whether you're happy or not. Unless, I don't know, maybe you're in a deep funk of some sort. But I didn't think about whether or not I was happiness. I mean, I just spent every day as every day came. But the older you get, the more you think, well, I could have made things a little happier if I'd have done something a certain way, or anyway, you get to thinking you don't have much time to fix all those broken things you did in the past. It's not fun to have your people close to you go before you do, especially a daughter. But those things, that's just part of life, I suppose. But anyway, I am glad that I finally found a church to go to where I feel at home and I feel close to the people. I really never went to church anywhere much. Not much of a believer even, for that matter. But I found it makes a tremendous difference in your life as you get older. You've got to have that. Well, I don't know. I don't know people that don't have family. I don't know how you survive not having a family. I mean, that's just life, the good, the bad, and the ugly that comes from family, but you got to have it. Family is, I would say, the most important thing that you're ever going to have. Yeah. I am most proud of my family. Mostly, they've all done really good and well and done wonderful things, and I expect all kinds of good things to happen for them.
Is there anything else you want to leave anyone with? Your family, your future great-great-grands?
Well, you've got to know Jesus in the first place, which, you know, I wasted a lot of years not knowing Jesus and God, and in a way, although they were always there in the backfield. But you've got to have that. You've got to have some faith. Faith will take you a long ways. So I can only wish that my great-greats have a lot of that faith. That'll get them where they need to be.